Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting episode on this very channel. In these very tutorials, we shall be looking at what we call compound events. Remember, we are still on the same topic, probability. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly hit on the subscribe button for me. So let's get started. Now, compound events. In this topic, we shall be making use of the addition law of probability, and we shall also be making use of the multiplication law of probability. We shall also be making use of the complementary rule of probability. So if you don't have any idea about these three rules and laws that I've mentioned, please kindly go back and then watch the videos on these three topics that I've mentioned: the addition law, the multiplication law, and the complementary rule of probability, because we shall be making use of them frequently in this regard. Kindly go back and watch the videos on these three laws and rules of probability: the addition, the multiplication, and the complementary rule. So let's look at this example on the board to see how best we can go about it. The probability that an event A occurs is 1 out of 5, and the probability that an event B occurs is 1 out of 3, assuming that the two events are independent events. We want to find the probability that A and B both occurs. Neither events occur, and at least one of the events occurs. This is our task for the day, and we are going to go through it. Remember that we are just going to apply the addition, the multiplication, and the complementary rule in solving this particular question. So it is very, very easy. So we are saying that the probability of an event A occurring is 1 out of 3. So let's write the vital information from the question. Probability that A occurs is 1 out of what? 5. And then probability that event B occurs is given as what? 1 out of. So let's look at the first one. We want to find the probability that A and B both occurs. A and B both occur. So we have our first question: probability that A and B both occurs. And we have already established that the word "and" is the same as the intersection, and it corresponds to the multiplication operation under the multiplication law. We know that this can also be written as the probability that A and B occurs, or A intersection B occurs. And once we have this, we are going to apply the multiplication law. We are going to have probability that A occurs multiplied by probability that B occurs. We know that the probability that A occurs is what? 1 out of 5. The probability that B occurs is 1 all over 3. So when you do your multiplication, you are going to get 1 all over 15. Very, very easy and then simple. So the probability that A and B both occur is 1 out of 15. Let's look at the II. The probability that neither event occurs. Neither event occurs. So this is how it is going to be. The probability that event A does not occur, and the probability that event B does not occur, and that is going to give us the probability that neither event occurs or none of the events occurs. So this is how we are going to write it. The probability that A doesn't occur and B also doesn't occur, and that is going to give us the probability that neither event or none of the event occurs at all. This is still the multiplication law, which is the same as probability that A does not occur and B also does not occur. We can expand it to write it as probability that A does not occur multiplied by probability that B does not occur. So to find the probability of event A doesn't occur, as we have already learned in our previous lessons, under the complementary rule, we said that the probability of an event occurring plus the probability of that event complement sum up to what? 1. Therefore, to find the probability that A doesn't occur, we are going to have probability that event A doesn't occur will be given as 1 minus probability of event A occurring. So from here we can see that the probability that A doesn't occur will be 1 minus probability that A occurs is 1 over 5, and this is going to give us what? 4 all over 5. So the probability that event A doesn't occur is, once we know this, we can proceed to find the probability that event B doesn't occur. So we have probability that event B doesn't occur will also be given as 1 minus probability that event B occurs. So this is going to give us 1 minus 1 all over 3. So 1 over 3. And when you do the subtraction, we are going to get 2 all over 3. Therefore, the probability that event A doesn't occur and event B doesn't occur will be giving us the probability that event A doesn't occur, and that is 4 over 5, multiplied by probability that event B doesn't occur, and that is what? 2 all over 3. When you do the multiplication, you are going to get 8 all over 15. So the probability that neither event occurs is 8 all over 15. Let's look at the last one. At least one of the events occurs. This means that we should have one of the events occurring or two of the events occurring. So we have one or two. So one of the events will occur or both of the events occur, and that is going to give us at least one of the events occurs. So we have probability that at least one of the events occurs will be given as the probability that event A occurs and event B does not occur. So we can see that with this, it is only one of the events that is occurring. So it is either A occurs and B doesn't occur, or the probability that event A doesn't occur and event B occurs, or the probability that event A and event B all occurs, and that is going to give us at least one of the events occurring. So in each of these events, you can see that one of the events is occurring. So this is occurring, event B is occurring, and then both of the events must occur. So this is going to give us the multiplication law. So we can write it as probability that event A occurs multiplied by probability that event B doesn't occur. This all means what? The addition. They move on to this probability that A doesn't occur multiplied by probability that B occurs. This all means what? Addition. They will look at probability that A occurs multiplied by probability that B occurs. Now once we have this, we are just going to substitute their corresponding probabilities. So probability that A occurs is what? 1 out of 5. So we have 1 out of 5 multiplied probability that B doesn't occur is 2 over 3. Then we have the addition. Probability that A doesn't occur is what? 4 over 5. multiplied by probability that B occurs is 1 over 3. Then we have plus probability that A occurs is 1 over 5. Then we have multiplied by probability that B occurs is 1 over 3. So this is going to give us 2 all over 15 plus 4 all over 15 plus 1 all over 15. Since the denominators are the same, we are going to pick one of the denominators. We add the numerators. So this is going to give us what? 7. So the probability that at least one of the events occurs is 7 all over 15. Now with the same at least one of the events occurs, we can also use this method as well. We can also use, we have method 2. We can also use the addition law. So we have probability that A union B all occurring, which will be given a probability of A occurring, plus probability that B occurs, minus probability that A and B occurs. That is, at least one of the events occurs. We can use the addition law to find that. So this is going to give us probability that E occurs is 1 over 5, plus probability that B occurs is 1 all over 3. And then with this, I think we had 1 all over 15. So this is going to give us 7 all over 15. So we can also use the addition law to help us find the at least one of the events occurs. We can also use another method. Let's look at that one as well. We can also use method 3. On the same probability that at least one of the events occurs. So probability that at least, we can use 1 minus probability that none of the events or neither event occurs. So we are going to have 1 minus none of the events occurs. We had 8 all over 15, so we have 8 all over 15. And when you do your subtraction, we are going to get 7 all over 15. So the probability that at least one of the events occurs is still 7 over 15, 7 over 15, 7 over 15. So you can use any of these methods, either this, the addition law, or the complementary rule. This brings us to the end of today's lesson. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.